Do I even game? What do I play on? I mean, what do I play on? So, do I play on this? Do I play on this? Or even stuff like this? Y'all know I love my handhelds, and as you know, the handhelds are getting better. So if you want to see the history of my gaming, come check it out. CJ Shenanigans, Chris James T. So I guess I would start out with the history of my gaming. It would be an Apple computer, but I don't have one. I also would be an Atari 2600, but unfortunately I couldn't find it for the recording of this video. So we're going to start with something that is definitely dear to my heart, one that I did grow up to and play Contra tremendously. The big old fat NES, Nintendo Family Entertainment Center. Guess it doesn't say family anymore, but you get it. Start of my gaming, we'll start with Nintendo. Can't tell you the year. I can tell you that we picked one up at a Kmart back when I was young. But tremendous amount of fun. Go from Contra, Konami Code, to blowing this thing, blowing these cartridges, getting them in here, getting them down, having fun. And I want to say I played that until I really got a Game Boy. So with the Game Boy and its lovely 8 batteries and this nice little box that it's not going to come out of. The Game Boy was pretty much my go-to. I don't remember going back to the Nintendo unless we actually had it hooked up to the TV. But with the Game Boy, you know, you had your Tetris, which was probably like one of the only games we had besides Mario Brothers. And it wasn't until I got a Game Boy Color, which I got with Pokemon Blue, and this became my go-to device for many years. You got the 2 batteries. This is actually, it's not my original one. It's my sister's. My original one's somewhere. But that Game Boy, I mean, I was blessed with more Pokemon games, more Mario, Donkey Kong, you know, you name it. But I would say about 2000, I think that's when the Game Boy Advance came out, and my dad had this, and then I would constantly steal it. Love the fact that it was wider, still 2 batteries, could play the newer games, which meant I can get the new Pokemon games, new Mario games, and still play my old games. But then my dad decided that he wanted his Game Boy back, which meant I cried and cried. And then for Christmas, look what they came out with. The Game Boy Advance SP, which was probably the best thing that they could ever do because it had a backlit screen. I would say the Game Boy Advance would be towards the downfall where I was kind of over handheld gaming. And then I was introduced to probably the best thing on the planet. It may not be the best thing on the planet to some, but for the best birthday present ever, the Sony PlayStation. I remember opening up Sony PlayStation, getting Die Hard, and a couple other games. Die Hard was the most memorable, and the PlayStation was one where I got my love into gaming again. I mean, I enjoyed my handheld, and I know I still carried it around, but the PlayStation, every time a new game came out, Mom, can I get this? I won't ever ask again. You know, I would say that my favorite games on the PlayStation would have had to been definitely all the wrestling games, the THQ series, and games like Twisted Metal. I love Tony Hawk. You know, as a kid, I wasn't very into the RPG games, but I also didn't know much about them, and now I appreciate them more. And because of that, now moving forward, you know, start play with, you know, the other games that are out. But like all things, you wanted to move on. I had my PlayStation 1 well into where the PlayStation 2 already had like the second SmackDown game, and I really wanted them. But, waiting Christmas after Christmas, didn't get it, to the point where, get a job, but I'm still in high school. Yeah, that didn't work out. But eventually I got the PlayStation 2, which I don't have the console in my hand. It's somewhere put away. The PlayStation 2 was probably the greatest thing. Not only could I play my PlayStation 1, I was able to play my PlayStation 2, obviously, play my DVDs. But with that poor PlayStation 2, unfortunately, I didn't have a memory card for it. So it would constantly stay on to the point where I had to flip it upside down. I put tape on games, just try to get the reader to work. And it was the end. It just finally stopped working. And my parents said no more. They weren't going to buy one. And they told me if I wanted one, go out and get a job. You're 18 now. You're out of high school. So, yeah, I refused. I was lazy. So I tried to get that PlayStation to work, and it worked when it wanted to. And that was essentially the end of the gaming. However, my mom, always the champ, wouldn't let her little boy go sad for long. Well, she got me a PlayStation Portable for Christmas. Figured, hey, take it on the go. You're out of here. Get a job. Do whatever. Now, the original one I had was black. Wasn't the slim. These came out later. But you could watch movies, play music. I mean, this was my MP3 player forever. I remember getting the movies for it, just the games. I didn't really have a memory card, but you know what? I did have a memory card, but it was the one that came with it, and I had like internet-based games before I think things got even weirder. Going around playing it while driving, try to get into people's Wi-Fi. Back then, it was fun. Now everybody has a password, and unfortunately, these things don't really go online anymore. I don't think the stores are still active, but you know, I would say this was this was my I was still able to game, and now I have to work. But all things came to an end, and I eventually got a job, started working. The first thing I did was buy a PlayStation 2 because that's what it was out still. Bought all the games back that I sold for games for stuff like the PlayStation Portable, and then went on from there. I mean, while I was working, I know the PlayStation 3 was going to come out, but I didn't get one because at that time Xbox 360 came out. Not this version, but the fat white one that was a piece of crap. I didn't even have it a year before the Red Ring of Death. And then by that time, they came out with the second model, which the one I had was a 20 gigabyte hard drive. And the newer ones that at that time came out with a 60 gig. And, game changer. The 360 was the console where it introduced me to like online gaming. I was able to play with people at work, obviously other people. You had Gears of War, the wrestling games, which is the reason why I got it. I wasn't into Halo. I only got it to play with other people, so don't kill me, Halo people. But it was the console that introduced me to like Microsoft. I didn't have the original Xbox at the time, so I just had the 360, and then of course the PlayStation 3 had come out, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to get it. However, once they said that it was going to be like backwards compatible, you could play the PlayStation 1, 2, 3. So I was able to play all my old games that I didn't get rid of yet. So we're back to the PlayStation. PlayStation 3 had come out. So I was so excited. I waited a year to get a PlayStation 3 because I didn't want to spend the price point. So I waited, knowing I can play my PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, and PlayStation 3. So when I got my console, big and bulky as it is, I was absolutely too late for it to play PlayStation 2 games. So I still needed my PlayStation 2. I was so burnt. The guy who sold it to me said, "Oh yeah, it plays PlayStation 2." No, it doesn't. But I started doing the mistake. I would buy the games for the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 because I'd put one console in one room, one console in the other. Exact same games. So playing them back and forth to the point where one had to go. And I was already an Xbox fanboy, especially with the controller, which just use the Xbox One controller as or Xbox Series X as an example. It was a lot better feeling than the other one. Eventually on, my PlayStation 3 was gone, my Xbox 360 was gone. I didn't have anything. I had my PlayStation Portable still, but at that time I didn't have very many games for it. I had lost them. But really, I grew old of that. I was tired of it and eventually went to the PS Vita. So, of no game consoles, the PlayStation Vita was my game of choice, what I was going to grab. And, once again, the handheld got me to point A to point B, was able to still play some games that may have been out, and found out some PlayStation 1 games I was able to download. I mean, you could do a lot more with these things now than what you could back then. But I was back being over the handheld, at least for, what this had to offer, what the other had to offer. I was over, the PlayStation Vita, which eventually I went back to another handheld, the Nintendo DS. Not only was I able to play the newest games, like I got back into Pokemon games, and honestly, I didn't really care for the DS Pokemon games. But the fact the guy sold to me saying, "Oh yeah, you can play advanced games," and I was thinking, well, if I play advanced games, can I play regular Game Boy games? No, unfortunately not. But at that time, I was happy with what I had. The DS games were all right. They got you by. Then you get that one day where, your mom and dad, "Hey, you've been doing good. What do you want for Christmas? Can I get an Xbox One?" Then you go, "Yeah, can I get the Xbox One?" Well, that's what I got, the Xbox One. And I played that thing till, I got a PlayStation 4, and then I sold the PlayStation 4 because I didn't like the controller. And then, I got the Xbox One again, going, "Oh, I'm going to enjoy it." And, you play that until whatever. So I don't know what this history is, where it's going. But now you got like the Xbox Series X, PlayStation 5, that stuff that comes out. And as fun as that is, I just got over it. I got over the newer games because I didn't understand them. They were hard for me. So I play them, but I don't play them. I can use these devices to emulate, the old games. I can use this to emulate from Atari to whatever, and go from, again, something like this where I can play Atari, PC games, PlayStation 3, whatever on here. I'm always finding myself going back to the old games or going out and buying like the retro consoles. Like, I never had a Game Gear. At the time, I didn't have like a Nintendo GameCube. Going on, I'm buying, the old school consoles so I can play these kind of games. But then, of course, they came out with the Super Nintendo Classic, the PlayStation Classic, the Nintendo Classic, and, the Genesis Classic, which is great. It brought me back to all my love for, the old school games, and then going, well, I hate lugging these things around, so I'll go to my ways of, like this. I'm able to play them all on here, or play them on, my Steam Deck, but it's still not the same. But then we go to playing on like the Retro Pies and stuff like that. And you play it on the computer, but when does the madness end? I mean, my history of video games, it starts out with those main consoles, and I eventually got into all the others because I found a love for it. I love the passion of collecting. However, things got so expensive where it kind of slowed down a lot of my collecting to the point of selling things just to get, say, that one game. I still haven't got a Rule of Rose for the PlayStation 2. I can't even buy a brand new Pokemon game. Pokemon games are about the same price as Rule of Rose, but either way, I'd rather play on actual hardware than play on, the little devices. Finding my love for games again, where it's kind of like, you get these things, bring them back, and now that I got kids, having these is an absolute blast as long as you don't break a TV. We haven't thrown a remote at a TV yet, which of course is a good thing. But now, towards the end, you got your Nintendo Switch, which plays whatever. The newest Nintendo Switch, it's got the online, you got the online pass. You can play all the old games, which is great. I wish there was more. I wish they'd allow you to have everything. I would love to pay for everything of what I want. I don't want everything, but that's what these things kind of go back to. But I don't know. This video may have gone all over. This is the history of my gaming. Me, everybody knows I tangent off, but if you liked it, let me know. What was your first console? What was your last console? Like, which is the last one that you might want to stop playing afterwards? Like mine would honestly be probably like the PlayStation 5 or the Xbox X, because I don't see myself going further to actually wanting to play, where I'm more playing, trying to go back to the older games. My kids, on the other hand, would love to play, the newer Fortnite 5000. I don't know, 2030. I might be dead by then. Nah. But gaming for everybody is different, So thank you all for being here. Thank you for listening to this. If you got this far, I appreciate you being here. Chris James T, CJ Shenanigans. Hit that like button, subscribe, do whatever you want. You don't have to like it. Hey, you can even hit the dislike button and call me Ogre. Yeah, I'm talking to you. So either way, we're out. Have a good one, everybody.